You read the title, let's get into
guessing the plot after one episode.
The first episode opens in the frozen north, where mysterious creatures called White Walkers are seen for the first time in many ages. Meanwhile, in Winterfell, Eddard Ned Stark, Warden of the North, executes a deserter for doing a good deed for his people. After the beheading, the Stark family happen upon a litter of direwolf pups, and they all get one. Even the bastard son Jon Snow. King Robert, Queen Cersei, and all her brothers arrive at Winterfell for Robert to ask Ned to be the new Hand of the King. Ned is reluctant, but agrees after learning that the former Hand of the King, Jon Arryn, may have been murdered. Far to the east, across the Narrow Sea, exiled creepy prince Viserys Targaryen arranges the marriage of his sister Daenerys to Khal Drogo, a Dothraki warlord, in exchange for an army to reclaim the Iron Throne. The episode ends with Bran Stark climbing a tower at Winterfell and accidentally witnessing an incest between the Lannister siblings. Jaime pushes Bran out the window to keep their secret. The end.
So Mikey, question one. How many seasons do you think it ran for?
I believe, due to how much information bestowed upon us in that first episode, minimum 9. I'm gonna say 9 is my final answer.
Question two. What do you think the arc is for every main character introduced to you?
All 3,000. We'll start with House
Stark.
Nettie Boy is going to become mad powerful. I believe he's going to be the one hope of the human race to take on the White Walkers. Despite him being our one chance, he's going to die though. And I believe one of his many, many children are going to be able to rise up in his place. And I believe that child's going to be Jon Snow. Why? Because I've heard the name before. Catelyn Stark, she'll live, but I believe she'll continue to rebel against the ways of the land with all the debaucherous nature of what she's brought up in. I think she's going to continue to rebel in her parenting styles, especially with matters like her daughter, the daughter that's going to get married off to that weird looking blonde kid. I think that she's going to try her hardest to try and rein her in, but that daughter's destined to be almost the antithesis of her mother. And ultimately, I think that's going to lead to her committing acts of violence against other houses to protect her own. Robb Stark, don't know much about him yet, but I reckon he's gonna go to war or something and die. Sansa Stark, I believe, will absolutely betray the Stark family. She doesn't seem to vibe with their whole thing they got going on of being down-to-earth good people. She seems to want to be married off to the high life with that weird, creepy blonde kid, and I think that's gonna cause some major dramas for the family because she is gonna get married off. She's not gonna have much allegiance to her old family that work in their little ways, and she's just gonna turn her back on them and desert them forever.
Sure.
Arya Stark. Arya's the champion of the people. Arya is a powerful human being. We can tell even just by that one archery shot she did early on that she has just got so much tenacity, she's got playful energy. She's got the ability to really lead the show, I believe, as she grows. I think back in those days, it's like in the Lord of the Rings, it's like, oh, women can't go to fight. But I believe she's gonna be the absolute hero that saves the day on many an occasion. I believe she will die in the battlefield, a very honorable death, but it'll be in the later seasons for sure, and it'll be like a major fight. I think it's gonna be a real heart-wrenching moment. Bran Stark was given a poor name, really unfortunate. He's a real dweeb. I didn't like Bran's energy, and you know what? Fair enough, he got told not to climb, otherwise it'll be his undoing, and look at him, he witnessed incest. I don't know what's worse, witnessing incest or being pushed out a window because of it. I believe Bran Stark is not dead, but he'll be in a major coma. He will wake eventually in a pivotal moment where he'll inform the family of who pushed him out the window, and then that'll be a real spanner in the works because I'm sure Papa's going to be out at war and it's going to be left to Mum to do some in-house fighting. Jon Snow will become the guy. Jon Snow is going to become the main piece of this show, and the world's going to revolve around Johnny Boy. I don't know how he's going to quite rise to the top. Maybe all the other brothers die, but I believe Jon Snow will be in major power. He might get married off to some family, but who wants to run to the lid, am I right? But still, I think Jon Snow is going to be a major, major pivotal character. He's going to be one of the strongest characters, and I think his little direwolf run to the litter pup might be a real badass too. Theon Greyjoy, I don't know, man. He was such a CD side character. Death. Sure, let's lock in death.
Okay.
Let's lock in death.
House Baratheon.
King Robert will die, by the hands of his wife, Cersei.
Ah.
As we know, Cersei's down with the incest, and she's gonna want to marry her brother. And you can't do that whilst having a king husband, but you can when you're a queen who needs the position filled. So wham bam, thank you ma'am, good old Rob's gonna die. And as for Queen Cersei, well, we'll get to her in the House Lannister. For Queen Cersei and Jaime Lannister, brother and sister, I think they're gonna keep on doing some incest, and I think she's gonna have a real incest babe. And maybe that's gonna be the reason she murders her husband, because it's gonna come out looking real crazy with like 5 eyes. I don't think either of them are gonna die, but they're gonna be crazy, conniving and sly and do a lot of behind the scenes working to get their power plays while they continue doing incest.
Sure.
Tyrion Lannister, he's gonna come out of his booze and drug-fueled stupor eventually, and I think he's gonna go on to be quite a powerful man in this show. I think he's actually gonna be a really good quality character, but first he's gonna goof around, he's gonna f around for a bit, he's gonna be visiting many of those houses. Ultimately, I think he's a really good guy, and he's gonna be a good guy in this show, and he's gonna be a big force for change, and especially within that house, I think he's gonna be the only voice of reason. House Targaryen! Viserys is gross, icky, yucky boy. God, he gave me the chills the way he was just like undressing his sister, nasty time. Yuck. Man, there's so much incest in this show. I think he's gonna die by the hands of his sister, which leads me to Daenerys. I think she's gonna be the powerhouse of this entire show. She's given a goddamn dragon egg, you know? Like, come on, people.
3 of them.
3 dragon eggs! I think she's gonna kill her brother. She's gonna kill a lot of people off. I think she's gonna kill Drogo eventually as well. She's gonna get real sick of being the quiet person in the room that's being assaulted by the Drogos of the world, and she's gonna be the most powerful person in this land. I do think there's gonna be a real theme of women in power in this show, overthrowing the gross acts of the men. And I believe through the whisperings of the internet, I've heard that she might be the Queen of the Dragons or something like that. So it makes sense because she was given 3 dragon eggs. I think that's gonna definitely play into her hand very, very happily.
Well, question 3, Mikey. What do you think the climax of the entire series is? You've got the struggle for the throne and the looming threat of the White Walkers. What do you think happens?
There's going to be so much war. It's just going to be war after war after war. And we're going to see rises to power of certain individual characters. I believe Jon Snow is going to rise to a major position of power, and I think he'll be an opposition to Daenerys until eventually I think they're going to find some sort of love. But I think Daenerys, rightly so, has a complete distaste for every other house because they exiled her and her family for so long. So I think she's going to have a very, very healthy distrust of the entire world, and she's going to rule up to be the most powerful in the land. I think in terms of the White Walkers, I think the people that take down the White Walkers will be seen as the most powerful in the land, and people will really revere them. I think it might be Johnny Boy Snow. I think that's how he might rise to power. The show made me feel like a lot of the characters were disposable. Maybe it was just the sheer amount of characters introduced. So I think there's going to be a lot of death in this show of a lot of the main characters, which is okay because there's so many characters that they'll foster and raise throughout the early seasons. Ultimately, I think there's only going to be a few key players left in this entire show. I think it's going to be Jon Snow. I think it's going to be Daenerys. I think Tyrion Lannister's going to be around, and the incest siblings are still going to be around in the wake of this major blood feud between all these houses. I think there will be some peace and prosperity finally, because you've killed off the old order and the old way of doing things, and all the young ones who are the runts of the litter, the ones that got beaten down, like Daenerys got beaten down, Jon Snow was being called the runt of his litter. I think they're all going to be in power, and they're all going to be looking after the little guy. The end.
Well, last question. Would you finish the show?
Would I finish this show? I think so. I think the themes are pretty heavy, but I'm really into fantasy. I think the incest themes are wild, man. There's so much nudity. Holy smokes, there is so much nudity. It's not casual viewing, and I'm not much of a dark viewing human. I think the darkest I've ever gone is James Spader's The Blacklist. What? I would enjoy watching it, but I also know that my mental state would just plummet.
Yeah, nice.
But enough about me, Joe. How did I do?
All right, well, let me let you know.
The reveal!
Well, firstly, Mac, Game of Thrones ran for 8 seasons, so you were quite close on 9. I think a lot of people would have loved it to run for 9, but it ran for 8.
Hell yeah, dude.
Next, the main arc for every character introduced to you. Very hit or miss, Mac. Eddard Ned Stark does not have much to do with the White Walkers. He goes to King's Landing. He uncovers that Robert and Cersei's sons may be bastard sons birthed of incest between Jaime and Cersei Lannister. And in trying to prove that, he is executed by King Joffrey right at the end of the first season, which is a total shock of the whole series. Probably one of the biggest shocks is how early Ned Stark dies.
Wow. I got right the fact that the characters are disposable and they will just kill him willy-nilly. And I got right the fact that he dies. But he was a big deal.
Yeah, you said mid-series and you said that he was going to be a big deal with the White Walkers, which were both wrong. So Catelyn Stark does not live. She rebels against King's Landing after Ned's death, helping her son Robb lead the war to them, but then is executed at the Red Wedding.
But I got it right that she was going to rebel against the other houses, right?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Robb Stark is crowned king in the north after Ned Stark's death, so he leads the war down to King's Landing, but is also executed at the Red Wedding, same way Catelyn is.
Go to war or something and die eventually. 100%.
That is such a vague prediction.
And I nailed it.
Sure. Sansa Stark, she is more into being a princess and living the high life, but she's forced to marry King Joffrey after Joffrey murders her dad, and then is married to this guy Ramsay Bolton, who treats her like shit. She is kept prisoner most of the series, but then builds up to be this strong political leader and ends up ruling the North with the Starks on her side.
So I may not have gotten any of that right,
but
I did get the idea of women being in power as a thematic.
Yeah, but not for Sansa Stark.
Still kind of right.
Arya Stark, she flees King's Landing right after she sees her dad's head get cut off, and she goes, and throughout the series she becomes a faceless assassin. She goes and gets revenge on those who murdered her mother and brother, and then she ends up being the one to destroy the White Walkers once and for all.
Whoa!
Which people had problems with, but that's what happened.
Whoa! Does she die?
Nah.
Damn. Okay, but I did say she'll become more powerful than we know.
Yeah, but she lives, so you were wrong, brother.
Yeah, but I said she's more powerful, so again, I'm killing this.
Bran Stark, he does go into a coma afterwards and is eventually smuggled out of Winterfell when it becomes too dangerous to be there. He becomes the mystical three-eyed raven, which means he can see into past, present, and future. Key player in defeating the White Walkers, and is eventually elected the King of the Six Kingdoms.
Whoa! Whoa!
So a lot of stuff there that you did not pick up on.
Not even slightly.
So Jon Snow, he ends up leaving Winterfell to become a member of the Night's Watch, which are key players in knowing what the White Walkers are up to. He is murdered by his compatriots and then is brought back to life. He is revealed to be the son of Lyanna Stark, Ned Stark's sister, and Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, making Jon a Targaryen, Daenerys Targaryen's nephew. They end up hooking up, and they end up defeating the White Walkers together and going down to King's Landing to become a king and a queen.
I knew he'd hook up with Daenerys, I called it!
You did say that. I was sad when we did a retake and you added that in. I was like, no, damn it, you're right. Theon Greyjoy betrays the Starks and takes Winterfell while the royals are off to war. He gets captured by this dude Ramsay Bolton, who takes over Winterfell. He gets his cock chopped off. He becomes a whole new character named Reek and eventually redeems himself by sacrificing himself in the battle with the White Walkers.
You didn't see the penis chopping off thing happening,
Yeah,
okay?
I
But
said it's dark.
He does die though, so I nailed it again.
No, you did. Damn it. Robert Baratheon, so he is the king, pretty uninterested in ruling. He dies due to a hunting accident, but it's said that Queen Cersei is manipulative and was like getting his hand to make him drunk and eventually die by the hands of a boar midway through season 1.
What a bore that is, am I right, people?
I mean, his death sets off the War of the Five Kings after Joffrey ascends the throne.
I know, but like, it'd be cool if Cersei murdered him.
Yeah, alright. So Cersei Lannister, after scheming to kill her husband, remains in power, is scheming in the background with her son Joffrey as king. Later on, all of her children die. She takes the throne by force. She blows up a sept and is just a crazy mad queen, and eventually dies when King's Landing collapses on top of her.
And she never gave gave birth to a 3-eyed child?
No.
Damn, man, I got none of that right.
Jaime Lannister, way more depth than you give him, bro.
Really?
He is captured during the War of the Five Kings and loses his hand, which causes him to be a whole new character because his sword hand, that's all he was. He struggles with his sister Cersei as they have different ideas of doing what's right, but he also dies underneath the Red Keep holding his sister as rubble collapses on top of them.
Damn, how romantic.
It's a ending for Jaime and I hate it. So Tyrion is quite witty and intellectual and eventually becomes Hand of the King to Joffrey. But then after murdering his father Tywin, he flees off and joins Daenerys' campaign, becoming Daenerys' Hand of the Queen. And by the end of the series, he becomes Hand of the King to Bran Stark as well. So just maintains this steady position of power, really.
So you would say he got out of his stupor and becomes a very, very powerful man?
Sure, I'll give it to you.
Hell yeah, dude.
So Viserys Targaryen is very disillusioned about just wanting to get the Iron Throne back. He disrespects Daenerys' husband, Khal Drogo, and Khal Drogo pours a pot of melted gold onto his head and it absolutely obliterates Viserys and he dies on the spot. Okay, sure, bro. Daenerys Targaryen. After her husband Khal dies, his brother Viserys dies, she goes across the eastern lands of Essos, building an army. Her 3 dragons are growing up. She eventually becomes this all-powerful dragon rider. She comes over to Westeros. She meets Jon Snow and hooks up with him. They help destroy the White Walkers together in return for them helping her take the throne. They go down to King's Landing, but she's just so crazy because of all of these mean southern lords, and she becomes the mad queen and starts burning King's Landing to the ground. Disillusioned by her actions, Jon Snow kills Daenerys, and her dragon, instead of eating Jon there and there, turns to the Iron Throne and symbolically burns the throne down to a puddle of metal, creating what is, by the way, a very disliked and rushed ending for the show. It is quite agreed upon that the last 2 seasons of the show were very rushed, but this is how it ended.
Okay, so I nailed that Daenerys becomes so powerful and she was always mad about the way things were in the land because she had a very, very healthy distaste for the way things were operated, right?
Yeah, you didn't say she became queen or she died, so
yeah,
I mean,
I didn't see the death thing coming.
0%.
That I did say that she'd be done, you know, the dragon thing. It's like, I'm up there.
Okay.
It's really disappointing to hear that the show has a poor ending. That's really disappointing.
Yes, so in saying all these endings of characters, the climax of the show, you were right, there are lots and lots and lots of wars, but the show ends, Bran Stark is king, Sansa Stark rules the North as an independent kingdom, and Jon Snow is exiled back to the Night's Watch after killing his queen. And life goes on in the 6 kingdoms. Who knows what could happen next? Maybe they could rewrite the last 2 seasons for us fans, who knows? Maybe you could just retcon the whole thing, take a new creator of the show, go back, work with George R.R. Martin more, and write a goddamn good ending for this great show!
So that being said, I think I got a lot of it correct.
Yeah, you did pretty well. I'm glad you had a great time.
This is a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching. Hey, if you like content like this, we do a lot of it. Feel free to click on the video that YouTube recommends you.
But most importantly, make sure you tell someone you love them today.
Bye.
Bye.